Oh, yeah, it's right.
Do we want to? He won't attack us when we're together, though, so we're fine. Ha! Yeah. Ha! Ha! Why did you have to call my bluff?
You sure about that?
Phasmophobia is the new co-op early access game where you go from actually being scared of uncontrollable and hardly predictable ghosts to being quietly scared as you job the system and still sing songs of terror because ghosts.
Basil, attack!
Oh, I see it. I see you. Some people are all about Fall Guys and Among Us, but Phasmophobia is the indie unconventional game title that's really gotten to my heart before the end of the world. Why? Mostly because of the co-op and scary game. I have a weak constitution for getting scared, and often whenever I play games like this, I get way too wrapped up in the events that are happening and literally try to go into a corner in the game and hide to calm down, or I rage quit. In Phasmophobia, I still do the former, but now that's a legit strategy to not get killed. And I only ever have to resort to that after saying a dead person's name 1,000 times and calling them a bitch. Honestly, the co-op feeling of being able to work with friends to hunt and identify a small but still diverse amount of spooks based on different tests, signs, and frequency of screams. Oh! Hold up! Run! It's time to run! It's time to run away again, my friends! Gives me just enough bravery to fight through my inner urges to cry, but still cry because it's funny. The game isn't the prettiest, but its metagame is functional. Its servers aren't the most reliable, but the opportunities to level and grind is pretty consistent. It's an early access game with a lot of functionality at the forefront, but a lot of polish still needed. A lot of this stuff is going to be more generalized ideas and me giving an idea of like how to make certain things work based on my perspective of the metagame. So keep in mind, I've been playing for about a week or two. By the time of this video, about level 50. This game's not very difficult to understand. It just comes down to the intricacies of what makes this so fun. So let's start here. New maps and new ghosts. Pretty simple, pretty necessary thing to keep the game going for a long time. Just by the first glance, an impression you might think is that the ghosts are the biggest factor of the game. Some are more violent than others, some are more sociable than others, but all have the same level of nope. The greatest fun of the ghost is trying to decipher through different tools at your disposal which one they are. This is based on saucy fingers, undead radios, rave party dildos, illegal headphones, the cheapest DSLR cameras known to man, and Jatheth. And in truth, the ghosts are the core of the danger, since none of them have clearly taken a bad touch seminar, and the different combinations of evidence also has the patterns of behavior make these specters fun and kind of difficult. You can have evidence overlapping quite often, and sometimes evidence just not working because a ghost is far more aggressive or far less aggressive than the evidence can work with. You have to start learning patterns. Also, the designs for all the ghosts are really fun. Like, they have clear inspirations, but are very much their own thing, and it's all random of what you're going to get between the name and the ghost and the type. This is just a huge smorgasbord of randomization spooky time. So of course, yes, we need more models, we need more spooky scary poltergeists, we need more to continue mixing up the formula. Some overlap of base evidence will always be fine, as I feel that newer ghosts need to lean more into the rules of their character, like being aversive to light or being horny on main for anything that has a pulse. Or even just having completely new behaviors. Like, let's say that there's a ghost that actually doesn't attack you as long as the power is still going on. If you turn off a light, it will turn one light back on and basically prefer that the lights stay on. But if you turn the lights off multiple times or completely cut the power, that's when it throws a spectral tantrum. Really, the most drastic change beyond mechanics that I could think of to make to the ghosts would just be lore, but that's not gonna work. The models, like I said, are not tied to the ghost type or the name, which is again is good because the metagame can be a lot of fun and you don't really have the ability to profile a ghost based on what they look like. But man, I just picture an idea of a ghost having a lore of being a victim of a bad circumstance or being a historically inhuman person. It could add a lot more depth to the connection of fear, being that there's pity for one ghost so you take it less seriously until it attacks you, or there's complete hatred and disdain for the other ghost so you're less likely to do stupid things because you're afraid of it, or you're just feeling ballsy. There's no real solution that I can think of for this, except for maybe making very specific event level ghosts. Things where it's really particular to an event or essentially like this game's version of raids. Maybe not adding more players, but making it a very particularly difficult ghost hunt that is made to mess with players. It's something to work up towards, which we'll get into what already is the current late game of this. But first, we gotta talk about the locations, what I think is actually just as important as the ghosts themselves. There's currently farmhouses, roadhouses, suburban towns, high schools, and asylums. The former options are pretty damn small and don't take much time to scrub with an EMF or thermometers to find ghosts loitering around. And yes, don't worry, I'll talk about that. So, tracking down the ghost when you're new and don't have a strategy or tools to do so quickly can make even the most baby bitch see-through child a real treat. But as you grind for money and levels, you start to get the gear that you need more of. Thus, you make those lower risk locations less of a problem, even as you go up in difficulties, which dictate whether or not you get to keep your gear if you die, and how much money you're getting from succeeding. This is really important because one of the cool things about stocking up for late game is being able to use the smaller locations and risk having a very aggressive ghost in professional and coming out with money. Being able to stock up on all the best tools and devices so that when you do want to take on the soon-to-be mentioned harder areas, you have this option. But even then, professional makes it to where the risk and reward is worth it because you can lose everything if you're not careful. And if there is a ghost that is very aggressive and does not give a shit about your crucifixes or your smudge sticks, you can still have the ghost do the not safe for work monster mash all over you. And when you are done stockpiling, you're dealing with the high school and the asylum, where escape is relatively easy in one area as you know your surroundings. These places are thick, long halls and big rooms with very little ways to cheese the ghost around, unless you play these maps very often, but I know a lot of people don't. Plus, with more space, the ghost has a lot more room to fuck with you in my experience, since these Caspers are trickier and more deadly and a lot more particular to where they are and what you need to do to get them going. Plus, if you're playing this on professional, your sanity is dropping like a rock, so oh man, you know it's gonna be scary when you have to go all the way to the end of the asylum to find the ghost. This is just as important as the ghosts themselves. It's such a big factor in what makes them scary when you feel you have so little control over what's going around. The ghosts are always a danger because they can kill you in one shot. If you have a lawn area where you have no way of getting to a safe spot in time and you have to risk being found all the time, oh, it's beautiful. Honestly, I just don't think much of anything has to be added to these maps except for more locales, more small and more larger places, churches, amusement parks, circuses, mansions. I actually think it would be fun if one of the smaller ones, as I'm thinking this, would just be like a trailer park. Like, you don't go into any of the trailers or anything, it's just a very small area of a trailer park that's just open wide space. I kind of want that. I kind of want a hardcore small map thing. I really want that now. Again, I think I would love lore and story for why these places have been so run down and haunted, but that could lead to vagaries and maybe not a lot of real meaty lore to get into. But compared to the ghosts, I think the locations could get a little bit of flavor text and make it a lot more fun to go there. Not a priority, but I think it's possible. Now, with all that said, we do need to circle back and talk about the tools. I said this earlier, prioritizing the behaviors of the ghost I think is key for the metagame to grow naturally and keep its fair difficulty. Adding more than one or two tools during the stretches of time will either make it way too easy to spot the ghost, or throw the entire meta off completely because it wasn't considering what is already established. Essentially, if you're gonna add new tools, add tools to help decipher the ghost's behavior, not be the hardcore evidence needed, and make future ghosts more difficult to get that hardcore evidence. Thus, you have two different metas of ghosts to work with, but meta that can still evolve and change and not be so rigid on certain things. The thermometer is kind of a good example of why I don't think you want to have more hardcore evidence, since from what little I've played, people are very vocal at the time of this video about how the thermometer is broken. And I don't think that's completely accurate. In small locations, I do understand where people are coming from, that it's very easy to find the ghost and start doing what you need to do, but I do think those small locations need to be that easy, honestly, so you can farm for money and gear so that you can teach new people how to play the game. The real spectacle of the horror are the large maps, or again, if we get a trailer park level. The thermometer in its current state, I actually think is perfect for what this game is right now and probably what it could develop into. We need a way to job the system on smaller maps so we can do the harder maps and have way less work. Like again, Asylum and the high school are so massive that you could go around for a solid, like I remember I went for 10 minutes one time not finding the ghost. Solid 10 minutes and was getting really uncomfortable, really unsure of how much sanity we all had, and eventually when we did find the ghost, we jumped. So again, in small areas, I get what people are saying, but I think it's a necessary evil that's not very evil, but very necessary, so that we can use the system enough to our benefit to play the heavy stuff and give newcomers a real comfortable walk-in, since we're already dealing with things just breathing in your ear and saying hello. Oh no. We gotta get out of here now. I don't think the thermometer is too OP, but if people really want to have it just slightly tweaked, maybe offer an option to where the thermometer isn't usable in the first 5 to 2 minutes of certain difficulties, and only professional being the one where you can use the thermometer from the get-go. But as it is, I don't see a real need to change anything with the thermometer. It's really perfect for what we have going forward, and we really just need to expand more on what's already working. And also just make sure this game doesn't crash. But as it stands, we need more maps, especially bigger maps, maybe even more diverse maps. We need more ghosts that focus primarily on their quirks more than their hard evidence to make things a little bit more diverse. Maybe it could be kind of cool to have a little bit of lore, but it's probably not going to happen. And no more gear focused on heavy evidence, and the thermometer is fine. That being said, let me know down below if you feel differently or if you have a different perspective than I'm not considering. If you want to check out me playing Phasmophobia with my friends, follow the links down below on Twitch. You can follow me on Twitter to know when other times I stream, and we'll just keep in touch from there. My name's Basil, not the Herb, and I thank you all for thinking tasty.